Well, that stunk.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA Radio Network's Luke Robinson, that's me. Alabama internet legend Jimmy Stein, that's him. Want to thank you every day for being here every day. Thank you, newbies, for being here today, and thanks to everybody for making this your first listen every single day. You guys are the best. Something that's not the best is when Alabama loses the top-ranked prospect in the state of Alabama for the second year in a row to probably geographically the furthest state away from Alabama.
Yeah.
At least it's close.
Well, he could have committed to Hawaii. That would have been a surprise.
Continental U.S. I should have clarified that.
Yep.
Regardless, that stunk. I mean, I'll tell you, maybe it's just me being a Bammer, and it could be. It sure seemed like he had a little hesitation in there for a second, like, am I really going to do this? And then he did it.
It's not going to be a popular decision at St. Paul's High School. It's not going to be a popular decision in Mobile, his hometown, full of Alabama fans. I would say Mobile, probably second to Birmingham, in the state in terms of percentage of Alabama fans in a major city. But here's a couple of things. First of all, congratulations to Oregon. They obviously did a heck of a job here, convincing him not only to choose Oregon over Alabama and A&M, but to come play on the other side of the country, which is going to require his parents taking multiple long flights a year to watch him play during his time at Oregon. That had to be a heck of a sales job. Oregon's lead recruiter for Tank is Tosh Lupoy. Any fan of Alabama should know or realize that Tosh is probably, when I say probably the best recruiter in college football, I feel that Tosh was the best recruiter in the Saban era at Alabama in terms of 5 stars that he pulled. And not only 5 stars that he pulled, but from where he did. Tosh was getting players to fly all across the country to play at Alabama. Najee Harris, Tua from Hawaii, Jonah Williams. I mean, all the West Coast guys, while Tosh was at Alabama, was Tosh. To say nothing of guys like, Terrell Lewis, which was, I know he didn't have an awesome career, but Terrell Lewis was a big-time prospect, and, of course, he's from D.C. Just saying, Tosh is probably the best in the business, and he proved it again. Not only that, Tank playing for Tosh, because Tosh is going to coach Tank's position at Oregon, and I'm sure that was a factor too. So now, Luke mentioned second year in a row, top prospect going somewhere else. Actually, it's like the 5th year in a row.
Let me stop you, because
4 years in a row.
It goes Tank, Naheem Alford, Cam Coleman, honestly, I would have had Ryan Williams above him, but I like Cam Coleman.
Me too, but going by the list that me and you go by, which is the best one on the On3 industry ranking, Cam Coleman was the number 1 prospect, and he went to Auburn.
Yeah, and then Peter Woods. And you have to go back to 2022, and boy, I mean, listen to this class. 2022 was Jeremiah Alexander. Now he signed with Bama, but this was the top 10. Just not a great year. I mean, it was Jeremiah Alexander, Emmanuel Henderson, Shamar James, Curtis Perry, Kobe Prentice, Justice Finkley, Traquan Fagans, Antonio Kite, Robert Woodyard, Caden Story. None of these guys have really panned out.
Shamar.
In fact, all of them that signed with Bama on that list have transferred.
Hey, you know what? Here's some inside scoop for people, because sometimes you get inside scoop here, and sometimes we try to stay away from. Here's some scoop. Shamar James ended up the best of those 10. He's in the NFL now. I think plays just drafted by the Dallas Cowboys. I think 3rd round. But Shamar ended up the best of that group as a 3rd round pick. And I do know from the inside that Nick Saban thought Shamar was probably the top prospect in Alabama. Nick did.
Wow.
So, wow. So as soon as you said that, went through the list, I'm like, who thought Shamar should have been number 1? Coach Saban. He loved Shamar and was really disappointed when he chose Florida. But it's a great example of how, I'm going to see a lot of posts and comments today that sort of set me off when people will go too far with the negativity. I get being upset. I get being sad. I get being, fine if you want to be a little mad because it didn't go the way you wanted it to go. I get that. That's fine, a little of it. But I saw one comment that said this never would have happened under Nick Saban. That is just that's someone that's just venting, because as the numbers we just went over, Nick failed to sign the number one prospect in the state the last 2 years he was here also, because of NIL and other things. And in 2022, Jeremiah Alexander was the number one player. He did sign with Alabama. That's the last time it happened. But even Coach Saban himself, I think, was super high on Shamar James, who chose Florida over Alabama. But that was a guy Alabama really wanted to have. So no, saying Nick Saban would have signed him is just, that's venting. There is no way for anyone to know that for certain. There's just no way. Maybe he would have, but there's no evidence that he certainly would have. As a matter of fact, the latest trends were that he wouldn't have. And NIL and revenue have changed the way, recruiting works and recruiting goes. But yeah, I'll have more to say, about Tank's position, because I think that's an under talked about element of his decision too, is his position at Alabama and about being crowded out a little bit in his own recruiting class. You're on mute. I'm going to be I would be disappointed if every time you're on mute here, they can hear you in Oregon.
They have a better chance of hearing me in Oregon, apparently. But I was going back and looking through all those because I wanted to see how long it's been since Bama had the number one. And I went back. Even the number one guys Bama has gotten, most of them hadn't panned out. And so, again, I wanted Tank Jones. It's not over. He hadn't signed. I'm not going to sit here and say we're definitely going to flip him. Hey,
plays his freshman year at Oregon. It's not over.
According to Auburn fans, tomorrow's August 1st. All bets are off. So,
and also this, a really similar player to Tank, similar-ish, not ranked quite as high, but a similar player to Tank, Kelby Collins. 2 years ago, Alabama wanted him very badly. He chose Florida. Guess who Kelby Collins plays for now? Alabama. So don't assume that Tank Jones will never play football at the University of Alabama. That would be a foolhardy assumption. Chances are he won't. Chances are he goes to Oregon, does well, and sticks it out like Peter Woods has at Clemson. Or TJ Parker. There's a good chance that that's what's going to happen. But we can't rule out Tank one day playing for Alabama. And as for Alabama, look, very few will go this much in depth about this, but I think it's a critical part of this, and maybe one of the reasons he chose Oregon. He might play Wolf, he might play Bandit. I know the Wolf coach was recruiting him. I think Tank wants to play Wolf. But here's the deal. I looked it up this morning to confirm. Alabama's Wolves, 4 of the 5, Quay Rousseau, Yanze Pierre, Justin Hill, and Noah Carter, all weigh between 242 and 246 pounds. All 4 of them are within just a couple of pounds of each other in the mid 240s. Now, Jamarian Latham also plays Wolf, and he's 262. But I think everybody listening to the show that knows the roster and knows recruiting knows Jamarian Latham is not going to would not be the type of guy that this staff would recruit out of high school to play the Wolf position. I mean, that's not going to happen. So I think my whole point is Alabama has a type for the Wolf spot, and that type weighs between 242 and 247 pounds. Rousseau, Pierre, Hill, Carter, they all weigh basically the same. Tank Jones weighs 245 today. Today. He's got a whole nother year or a whole season of high school football and won't show up till next January. He's showing up that size, which means Tank's going to be much bigger than what Alabama typically puts at Wolf. That puts Tank at the bandit position, which is what we've said here on the show all along, that Tank is a bandit. Well, Alabama has 2 bandits already in this class. Jamarian Matthews, he's 260 right now. He ain't going to play Wolf. He's already bigger than every Wolf on the roster other than, like I said, Latham, which doesn't really count. Matthews is going to play bandit. Alabama signed Nolan Wilson, and be honest, Alabama had to recruit Nolan Wilson at the bandit position. That's where Nolan wants to play. And do y'all remember something? We hadn't brought it up in a long time, but it's ringing in my ears today. I remember Tim Watts and Bone, who know recruiting at Alabama as good or better than anyone out there, saying before Nolan Wilson committed, hey, it's going to be hard to get Nolan Wilson and Tank Jones both. It's going to be hard to get both. And then you got Nolan Wilson. What were you going to do, turn him away? So I think in the end, I don't think there's enough talk about the bandit spot at Alabama where Tank Jones is almost certainly to have landed, and the fact Alabama already has 2 in this class, to say nothing of the fact Jordan Renard's coming back next year, Keon Keeley's coming back next year, Fatua Toa Henry's coming back next year. It's a crowded spot at Alabama. Like I said, even in Tank's class, I know people are going to talk about NIL until they're blue in the face. No doubt a factor. I think positionally there's a bit of an issue too.
We're going to talk a little bit more about this and also talk about where Alabama may turn next. But first, I got to tell you all about a new sponsor. DripDrop. If you're trying to stay on top of your routine, whether that's workouts, long days on campus, or staying focused through back-to-back classes, hydration is where it all starts. And that's where DripDrop comes in. Look, DripDrop is a doctor-developed and scientifically proven thing for – misread that – for fast hydration. It uses the perfect balance of sodium, electrolytes, and glucose to help your body absorb fluids quickly, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half of the sugar of the leading sports drink. That's awesome. DripDrop is so delicious. Mine has not come in yet, but the other SEC host had theirs in last night during the SEC Squad Show.
I've got it.
Yours?
I got mine, and the wife has already tried it and loved it to the point that she wants us to get it regularly. She loved it, and it's not the type that would. She's not as easy. She's not an easy sell. She liked it a lot.
Well, right now, DripDrop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. Just head to DripDrop.com and use promo code LockedOnCollege. That's DripDrop.com, promo code LockedOnCollege for 20% off. Stock up now before, August gets here, and that's when Alabama is at its hottest. Okay, so Tank Jones commits to Oregon. I don't want to sit here and act like we're just being sore losers or anything like that. I wanted Tank Jones. We did. And we thought we were having some faith. And, I was 75% 2 days ago. I was 60% yesterday. I told somebody I'm 51% this morning. So my confidence certainly was waning. But and I'd love to have him. Who knows? Maybe we do flip him. I'm not going to count on it.
Count on it. I know Alabama's going to attempt. If Tank will still take their calls, they're going to not give up until signing day. I'm sure that's true. Tank at some point could just request that we quit calling. That happens sometimes when kids shut it down and mean it. Then you need to respect that. But if he's still taking the calls, yeah.
Some people are losing their minds on the message boards. Like, this is such an embarrassment. It's been an embarrassment for 5 years in a row. Then, again,
how many times recently has Georgia lost the number 1 player in Georgia? How many times recently does the number 1 player in Texas left Texas and the number 1 player in California not sign with USC?
Right.
This all started happening a lot more frequently about the time NIL showed up. That's no coincidence whatsoever. But it's not embarrassing. It's just college football in 2025. And again, Nick Saban himself, the greatest recruiter of all time, did not land the number 1 player in Alabama in his last 2 tries.
Here's the other thing. I see so many people saying, oh, he's a sellout. This is a money play. Maybe it is.
Maybe.
But at the same time, what do we say when we get somebody and NIL is a factor? Now, the way we approach NIL is a little different. There's no doubt about it. But what if it's even like a 3-star guy? What if it's I was going to say Georgia Tech, but Bear Fretwell even mentioned that, hey, Georgia Tech's offer was probably more lucrative. But what if there is? And again, if it is for the money, so be it. If they're just going to pay him $1 gazillion.
Now, I would also point out that the rules have changed, and y'all can think anything y'all want to think about that. But the rev share offers from Alabama to Tank Jones probably was about identical to A&M and Oregon. The only difference is going to be in NIL. But with the new NIL rules, where every NIL payment has to be related to a legitimate business purpose and within what NIL Go considers a fair range of compensation. It's a little crazy to think that Oregon had some whopping offer that was far more than Alabama or A&M, because that would never get through NIL Go. Never. Not as the rules are written today. So, and Tim and Bone, who know this again as well as anyone, both reported that even the NIL offers were in the same ballpark. And that's the result of these new rules. So I believe money is a factor, yes. And I believe Oregon somehow, some way has a bigger NIL offer here than Alabama. I believe that, and I believe it's a factor. I just don't believe that in and of itself settled this, because A&M also apparently had an extremely lucrative package and they finished third. And again, with the new rules, I think positionally, I think that's a big factor that almost no one will talk about, but looks pretty obvious to me, is that he would be in the same class at Alabama with two other bandits. There's only one bandit that plays. Well, technically you'd have two, but I'm just saying it's kind of like a quarterback. I mean, what quarterback, even a 5-star, wants to come in with two other guys, that are signed as part of his class? You don't see that happening. Sometimes there's two, like Alabama, but Jet Tamala and Taden Kava, they're not 5-star guys. Tank's a 5-star. Nolan Wilson and Jamarian Matthews are on the cusp of 5-stardom.
Yeah. So where does Alabama turn right now? Elijah Golden? That's
Here's the good news about money. Here's some good news. Alabama made a considerable offer to Tank Jones. If that money's not going to Tank, now you've got it to spend. You can up your offer to Elijah Golden because you have more money, or you can target somebody brand new for an edge spot, for a bandit spot, for a wolf spot, for another defensive lineman. Yeah, Alabama, the money that they were going to spend on Tank Jones is now freed up. So there's the advantage to this, and that's a salary cap thing. Well, I guess we could say the salary cap taketh away. The salary cap can also giveth. But is Alabama going to target a new guy? Bone said today, when asked, Andrew Bone, he didn't think so, or felt probably not. He would know better, and I'm not saying I would know better. I wouldn't be surprised. For instance, I'll throw out a name, KJ Ford. KJ Ford liked Alabama a lot, but Alabama couldn't come up with an offer anywhere close to Florida's offer.
Maybe they can now.
And I'm not saying it's going to be KJ Ford. I'm not telling anybody at all that's what's going to happen. I'm just saying that might happen. Maybe.
Now, all that's very interesting. I want to say a couple other things here. First of all, in terms of ranking, Alabama, it now moves to number 7. Oregon moves up to 6. Alabama and Oregon are both tied with 4 5-stars. Oregon's got 10 4s. Alabama's got 9. But the difference is Oregon's only got 2 3-stars. Bama's got 8. Now, you and I both believe Brian Williams has been tearing it up. He will probably get bumped up. We both believe Bear Fretwell will get bumped up.
I'm not so sure about that. I'm not so sure. I'm just saying I'm not so sure. But I think he's going up. I don't know that he's going to make it all the way to 4-star. I don't know.
Maybe. Okay. Well, we do.
But yeah, he's going up.
You and I believe Brian Williams will be a 4-star.
I don't know. I'm not as convinced. I believe JJ Finch will be a 4-star.
Do I even know you anymore?
I'm just trying to be accurate. I'm trying to be accurate. Best that I can. JJ Finch should definitely be a 4-star.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a hill I'll die on. I like Maury Johnson a ton, and I can't believe he's not a 4-star, but I'm not as convinced because so much of it has to do with who else is recruiting you and what are your other offers. I mean, in terms of, what were your finalists, and that's where I think JJ Finch has got to be a 4-star, basically committed to Alabama over everybody recruiting defensive linemen like JJ Finch. But I do think just about Brian Williams moving up, Bear Fretwell definitely moving up. But all the way to 4-star status from where they are right now would be a heck of a jump. I'm not saying they're not worthy of that, by the way. Yeah. That's the beauty of this Alabama class. I know it's not going to rank where we're used to being ranked. And I'm not trying to be Mr. Sunshine. I'm just telling you all honestly, all these guys that are ranked 3 stars, I like every one of them. I don't want to give back any of these guys. Yeah. I like every one of them. And I've said it before. Heck, I told it to Bear when he was here the other day. If Bear hadn't reclassified and he's going to actually play high school football another year and he's a 2027 guy, I think he'd be in the top 100 next year and a strong 4-star next year had he come back. That to me is, so I don't care that he's a 3-star now. He could have been a 4-star. He just reclassified. And Brian Williams is a group. Brian Williams could have gone to Notre Dame or Florida. So why would I want to throw him back? And Owen Cabell, fantastic measurables and fantastic production. He probably should be a 4-star based on measurables and production. So the kid from Rutgers, his tape, I watch his tape. If I'm watching that tape and somebody told me, hey, this is the 5th ranked safety and 90th ranked player in the country, and I watch that tape, I go, yeah, I'll see it.
Yep. Well, let's talk a little day 2 of practice. What do you say?
Sure.
Day 2 of practice has been completed. Tell you the first thing I thought of. A couple of guys look really, really good to me. Jordan Renard. Ooh.
Oh, yeah. He's monster.
Man, I was like, immediately, I forgot he was number 11 for a second. Yeah, and I was like, numbers. Oh, my God, who's number 11? I had to look it up like immediately.
He was 90 last year, and there's a 90 out there now.
Yeah.
It's almost confusing. Is it London?
Well,
Simmons?
He and somebody I mentioned on the squad show last night that'll air a little bit later today. I encourage everybody to check it out. Jeremiah Beeman. Jeremiah Beeman looked like a beast to me out there. Now, again, they're out there in half pads, just hitting machines. But I like the way they looked on the hoof. Now, the other thing that was pointed out today on BOL, one of the coaches came out and said, hey, just letting y'all know, by the way, we tracked Rico Scott this summer, and he hit a maximum speed of 23.5 miles per hour.
That was
great,
stunning.
Googly moogly.
That's stunning to me because when we signed Rico, I didn't really consider him a speed demon.
I didn't either.
It could be. This does happen. It's just rare. But it could be that with the speed training they do at Alabama, and they do literal speed training, drills and conditioning things to make you faster. Maybe Rico might be one of those rare guys that sort of showed up 4.62 and is leaving 4.49.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that does happen. Now, that doesn't happen as frequently as somebody showing up at 230 pounds and leaving at 265. That's sort of routine. Most kids don't get significantly faster, but it does happen, and maybe Rico's that guy.
The other thing that, again, I know what these practices are. They aren't like practice. You're not going up full speed against big dudes and all that. Still thought Ty threw the best ball. I mean, I saw him throwing some ball, and it looked like they were working on a lot of wheel routes.
Yeah,
and
I saw that.
Ty, his ball was not only was it pretty and spirally, but it was led perfectly. I thought the other two, the pass was a hair behind where it really needed to be. Now, in a game, is it going to matter if he's that open? No, but I'm just saying that if you need to throw it in a tight space, I think it's going to matter. And again, I'm not trying to oversell Ty Simpson. There's some people that listen to us that absolutely aren't going to buy into any Ty Simpson hype. Okay. All I'm saying is before you cuss him out, let's let him start and finish a game.
That wheel route throw is tough too. You know, I learned this from my time at QB Country, kind of interesting for those who haven't thought about it in these terms. But most of the big time prospects, especially those that sign with the SEC, they're sort of fastball guys. They're recruited to play at the highest level because they have big arms. They can really whip it. That's what I mean by a fastball guy. A guy that can just drill the ball through the air. Most SEC guys are like that. That's how I would describe Ty Keelan and Austin Mack. Fastballs. Okay. Now, keeping with the baseball analogy, the best pitchers, not the best throwers, the best pitchers also have an off-speed pitch they can get you out with. It's not just that they throw 99 high and tight. They have off-speed stuff that they can locate, and that's why they're major league pitchers. That's your wheel route. That's your off-speed pitch. Not everybody's going to be great at both. Throwing the ball through the car wash, the ball doesn't get wet. Oh, and you've also got this little touch pass that requires you to throw the ball into an open trash basket as it's moving 19 miles an hour down the sidelines. That's two different throws, and there's the difference between a really good quarterback and a guy that needs a lot of work, a guy that's got more than one throw. I think our last guy, Milroe, God knows I want to get off on talking about him all year, but Milroe was sort of a fastball guy at Alabama. That was his pitch. That's kind of what he had when he whipped it, oftentimes well downfield. But those wheel-type throws weren't always there for him. But I think Ty is going to be pretty consistent with that sort of thing.
Yeah, I do too. And look, there's some people who are saying, hey, I don't even want to talk about Tank Jones. And I get it, but it was the biggest name left on Bama's board. Somebody
he
asked about
live on ESPN on the McAfee show. That makes him it's a major story. It's a major deal. And again, so, I don't rule out Tank Jones flipping. Small chance, just a small chance of that.
And somebody else asked about Zion Ely, who's some people think is the best player in the country. I don't think there's really any connection to Bama there. That NIL is probably ridiculous. But now, one other thing I want to remind people that, hey, if let's pretend like Tank Jones committed a month ago to Oregon, and let's pretend like Nolan Wilson committed today.
That's
and
great.
Just be happy. The same thing.
That's a great point.
So just
it's not like again a Bandit's one position. Alabama's already got two guys. You already got two. I mean, Jameer Matthews, who's no doubt Bandit. Now, Nolan Wilson may grow into a defensive tackle, but Alabama recruited him to play Bandit, and he wants to play Bandit. Jameer Matthews is going to grow into Bandit. If he's not there, I think Jameer already weighs 260. So, again, bringing up, as we did earlier in the show, look at Alabama's Wolves. Russaw, like 245. Noah Carter, Justin Hill, and Deonze Pierre are all within just a couple of pounds of Quay Russaw. Only Jamarian Latham has a much different weight at 262, but Alabama's not going to go find 262-pound Wolves. They want 245-pound Wolves. That's what they're looking. That's the cookie cutter that they're looking for. Tank's 245 today, and hasn't even begun a college strength and conditioning program. Tank's going to be huge. I think Tank's going to be myself. I think Tank Jones will play college football at around 275 or 280.
Another guy that stood out in practice, switching gears back to practice, is Justin Hill. He is turning some heads. Now, we knew this. You and I loved him in recruiting. Some places had him like as low as 50-something in the country, and we're like, that's too low. It's too low.
No, we loved him. That was a guy I would have I'd give him 5 stars. I don't care who he signed with. He was a 5-star. That was a 5-star tape to me. That's what a 5-star pass rusher should look like. He's gained good weight quickly at Alabama. Here's Justin Hill, another guy. I think when we signed him, he was about 220 or landed him 220, 225. He's 245 already. He's only been there a year, less than a year. I mean, and he's good. And both the Bandit and Wolf positions at Alabama are loaded. They're stacked with really good players, and that's why I'm disappointed Tank Jones didn't choose Alabama. But Alabama's not broke at those positions at all. It is still, even without Tank, a major position of strength today and going forward. Yep.
Look, Alabama's going to be fine. Hey, let's see what happens. It was a disappointing day. It would have been an awesome day. It's still a great class. It's smaller than most Bama classes. It will continue to be smaller, and that may keep Alabama from being in the top 5. It might. But I still believe some guys are going to get bumped up. I also believe that Alabama's going to find somebody else or 2 or 3. So
good. And I think there could be senior season blow-up guys. I talk about it frequently here, senior season glow-ups, senior season blow-ups, however you want to talk about it. I think there could be, and those guys won't cost a lot. I mean, because they're guys, as we speak, that aren't really being recruited by Power 4 schools. And there could be some senior season guys that all of a sudden are like, wow, look at this dude.
All right, that's going to do it for today's pod. We'll be back tomorrow or soon with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll Tide.